Hey guys, today I'll be teaching you how to make some clay spheres by using a pinch pot technique. There's a lot that you can use with this technique, so I thought it'd be really neat for you guys to learn some of the basics of how to hand build some clay figurines. And yep, let's get started. So you're probably wondering, what tools am I going to need? First, you'll need the fettling knife, a needle tool or a fork, a small brush, some slip, which is basically some water with little bits of clay. And later you might need some sgraffito tools so you can add some markings for decoration on your piece. Or if you really want to get creative, you can add some unique textures by using some household items. So first we need to create these two half pieces that will come together as a sphere, so take off any watches or any jewelry that might get ruined. Today I'll be using Long Beach Blend clay, which is a stoneware clay. I made sure to wedge it to eliminate all air pockets, which would cause your piece to blow up in the kiln. So make sure you wedge it nicely. I'll be cutting this in half and then we'll be making two small clay balls out of it. So next we're going to be creating what are called pinch pots. So first you'll be putting your thumb into the center like so, and then you're going to start to pinch the side of the walls with your thumb and your two fingers. So you're just going to slowly work your way around the circle to create a bowl, and make sure that you do this evenly. Don't rush it or else you will get an irregular shape. So once you have your two pieces done, you want to make sure that they are about the same thickness. So as you can see, the one on your right is a bit thicker than the other. So basically you'll just have to go back and rework it by applying a little bit more pressure on the walls and widening it so that they match perfectly. So again, once you've reworked the second one, just double check, make sure that they are about the same. One thing you also want to consider is the concavity of your piece. So depending on what you're making, you might want to make it a little flatter or a little rounder. So in this situation, I added a little more pressure to the walls where it stretched it out and made it a little more rounder, and this one with a little less pressure, making it a little more flatter. So it's all up to you. So now to attach our two halves, we need to apply slip all around the edge of one half. After slipping the edge, you want to start creating a scoring pattern by grabbing your needle tool. First, you're going to be slicing through the edge one direction, turning over and going the other way. You also don't want to go in too deep, but you want to go deep enough to create grooves. You can also use your fork. If you use your fork doing the exact same process, it'll do the exact same thing for you. You want to do this for both halves to have proper binding. After you're done scoring both halves, you now want to reapply some of the slip so that it's nice and moist. After slipping and scoring your two halves, you are now going to apply a little bit of pressure and lining up the edges so that you create a seamless connection between both halves. There is another process we can do to this called coiling, where it'll add reinforcement and eliminate the crease. This process is very easy. You just roll some clay and create coil little strips that you will be applying right along that seam. You're just going to lay that strip of clay right down the seam and you're going to press down, and then you're going to turn and start to rub down the edges of the clay so that it blends in right along the walls of the halves. This works wonders. So basically it's just a strip of clay that helps hold it all together, and it'll make sure that your piece doesn't fall apart. Next is my favorite part. It's basically just adding detail. So if you grab any household item, I chose a toothbrush. It can add a really nice rough texture. It's also fun to experiment using different materials at home. For example, I just randomly grabbed a Q-tip and it looks like it makes some really nice subtle lines on the surface. You can also take a more traditional approach and use your Sgraffito tools to add line work and texture. You can also use other ceramic tools such as a serrated rib. Here is a piece where I use a serrated rib to add texture, and this section does not have any glaze on it. Now you're probably wondering how you can attach pieces to it, and it's pretty easy. You just do the same technique. You add slip, then you score the area using the needle tool once again by creating cross-hatching lines. Then you slip and score the area where you will be attaching that piece. by doing the exact same process. And finally, you will attach the piece onto the sphere by pressing on gently. Then you will also have to reinforce those pieces that have been added on with coil by adding a little strip along the seam. And you will finish off by rubbing out those edges up against the walls of the sphere once again. You also need to consider where you will be placing your hole. You need to place a hole because when the clay goes into the kiln, it will evaporate the moisture in the clay, so you need to give it a way for all the pressure to be released. So in this situation, I will be using a knife to cut a hole open. You can make it a little bit smaller, but the smaller you make it, the more of a risk you will have. So now we're going to create something out of a hole. So in this situation, I'm going to be making a smiley face. I thought it'd be neat to make a small character by adding some legs, arms, and putting a face on this figure. So yeah, there you have it. Here is my little figure with arms and legs. We will then have to let it fully dry before putting it in the kiln, and then we can glaze fire it after so that it could have its final color touches. Please let me know if you have any questions, email me, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.